Hey friends, welcome to One Answer Yoga. It's your co-host Yogi Rich, and it's my pleasure to unveil this long-awaited project that Radha and I have been working on. We met under interesting circumstances that we can't wait to tell you all about. In this podcast here, we really introduce the overall vision that we have for our podcast and our overall podcast channel that my wife Safa and I will be leading. Different directions, one connection. So we really can't wait for you to get into this episode. It starts off a little awkwardly, it ends a little abruptly, but I promise it's interesting if you bear with us. It's best watched first and then roll into Yogi Rich's story. We ended up recording that podcast right after. Interestingly, and you'll notice as you start to listen that we didn't really plan on releasing this episode when we recorded it. That's why I feel like it's a little extra special. You get to see that we're starting this up from scratch right alongside all of you. We want you all to be a part of this journey, and we're looking for people that want to help spread the message of universal love to all of Josh's children. So, without further ado, please enjoy One Answer Yoga. Like,
This is fun.
I know,
We're
right?
just hanging out, Quentin.
I know, it's so amazing, really. I mean, okay, is there an echo right now? What do you hear?
I don't hear an echo. It's a little quiet, but I don't hear an echo, so we're good.
Okay.
Okay, while we're recording, so we'll have a transcript of this. So here's what I was thinking last night, and tell me what you think.
Yeah.
First of all, I have way too much energy and time on my hands because obviously I'm, currently unemployed, so,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Self-employed.
And I know. I have so much time. It's really extraordinary. I don't mind. I mean, I've been self-employed most of my life. So here's what I was thinking. I was using this idea, and I've been talking to a couple friends who also have like ideas around this. So one of the things I was talking to, you are going to know I'm obsessed with AI. AI
Yeah.
is like my best friend. I use AI. I use Grok. I use Gemini. I use ChatGPT. My brother's like, you better get on Claude. I use them all for different things. ChatGPT is my main one. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot because I think tech and yoga is very interesting, like how it's all linked in and everything like that. But I'm going to move this back a little because I want my head to be about the size of your head, and I feel like my head was getting a little big. So what I was imagining was this idea. So we have a master YouTube channel. And the master YouTube channel is called that wonderful thing that Safi came up with. Different directions, one connection, yoga. Or even maybe just different directions, one connection. I don't know. Because maybe we want to expand beyond yoga. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, yes, that's the feedback I got this morning too. Let's do
Was
it because
different
some people.
directions, one connection.
Yeah, 100%.
So I just did a bunch of research, just quick research, again, using Gemini because Gemini is connected to Google and Google is YouTube's owned by Google, to kind of see what Gemini thought about this idea. And Gemini and I was actually, this is a great idea. What we can do is we can have one main YouTube channel, and then we have podcasts that we break out into playlists, and we start putting different podcasts under this one channel. Because what we want to do, I think you and I are both like, okay, it's fine. We have voices. We want our voices heard. But we also want to build community. We want to create a movement. We want to do something really meaningful with this. We don't just want it to be like, hey, Radha and Quentin are doing cool things. So what I was thinking is if we do this master show, then our podcast, which can start off with you and me, but maybe even then it branches off and you have a separate podcast and, we have other guests or we do whatever we want with this space. So One Answer Yoga becomes one of the channels. That's our main podcast that we just start with, just because then you and I can sort of also create systems. I'm so into systems. Like I'm a little just crazy nerdy that way, where I just love building systems. So once you build a system, you can recreate something and you can give people tools to recreate it. So then what happens is we say, okay, well, we have like Riverside FM. We can maybe find ways for people to record the podcast in Riverside FM. We provide all the like things they need to do. Even including like, we could do website templates and like social media templates, all the things they would need to do to promote that podcast. But ultimately, they all sit under the umbrella of this one YouTube channel. So in the YouTube channel, under each podcast, you can still link to the individual website, the individual links. But we work, this idea of creating like this. And then, of course, we can create that in Discord, we can create it in Patreon, so that people then have this idea that they can support this movement that we're trying to create around, these themes. So, what do you think about all that first?
I had a parallel thought that was just like that. The opportunity now seems, yeah, we should have a channel, like, yeah, basically kind of take like the old channel model and make it new. I really like Spotify because Spotify is the least you could say, of them all. And so there's also that same infrastructure and like playlists play perfectly. I mean, like, and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's a great idea. I already have a couple of ideas on like what would be on it or like people that would like to do it. But I would love it if it was like, you're associated with us. That means something, and there's a connection or correlation between the shows. I think that would be even cooler. Like if you ever watched Law and Order, SVU, Chicago PD, they're
Mm-hmm.
all made. So what was even doper about them is that like, Olivia Benson's in Chicago. Now she's partnering with this person. So we can have that element where there's like the one answer yoga. Another idea that I thought would be cool that either me or you could do or anybody could do it would be a like a familial, like family and friends kind of interviews.
Yeah.
Um I hear a little bit of an echo
Are you
now.
hearing the echo now?
Yeah, but um so I have another friend that has an idea called Sunset Conversations. He's like a friend and student of mine. The same idea where it's not really centralized. The idea behind the channel, which makes it different than the previous types of things, is that like some channels might have a consistent host, but not necessarily, as long as you're like within the fabric or the outline of that type of class. And I think what even just like another example would just be a literal virtual class, just like what it would be like to have a weekly restorative class or a weekly class that's on different topics or something like that, like Kundalini. And then this one we're going to practice on this, or this one we're going to practice on this type of breath work, but have like me or someone else in person as a student. And, that would be more related to yoga. But just to keep things open and broad, if we have we can have like Yogi sort of at the center of it in a way. That could be the commonality, the common thing, because I do want to open it up to everyone to speak, but I want to have discernment and just be like, okay, we do have like, certain people that we would prefer, you know, come on and speak, I guess you could say. So I feel
So
like that's a great
yeah.
episode. What's
That's
up?
what I love about the idea of like, we can curate each playlist and each podcast according to what we want to do. So like One Answer Yoga is just yoga.
Yeah.
So on One Answer Yoga, maybe we just have people that want to talk about yoga or yoga related stuff, or
Which is
we
life.
just life, you and I just talking about life. And so one thing I do want to change in the tagline is, instead of two friends, many friends.
Hmm.
So it just becomes, infinite questions, many friends, infinite questions. Maybe not many, but I'll work with that word. But I wanted it to be like multiple friends, like lots of friends,
Yeah.
infinite questions, one answer yoga. So like we ask all these questions and we're talking about life, and it's just you and I at first, just like
Yeah.
talking about what happened this week or what we read or what we discovered, and how all kind of comes back to this idea of yoga. Then, because it's not, then the one answer yoga is not trying to umbrella everything. The one answer yoga is just like a really specific podcast that we're doing about yoga. Then you meet somebody who is an astrologist, right?
Hmm.
And they want to start a podcast, and we go, awesome, would you like to host it under our umbrella?
Yeah.
Like, we have this YouTube channel, we've been working on it, we're trying to get some traction on it, we want to give exposure to people, so that so also like doing things in community and supporting each other, I think, is so much better than just trying to create something for yourself.
100%.
I think, and then also we're working on are separate brands, right? So you can really then brand that Quentin brand, which is, what is it called? It's
LifeWord.
LifeWord, right?
LifeWord.
So then we're branding LifeWord, right? So like every time you and I do a podcast, we're like, go check out
Yeah.
Quentin's, website, LifeWord. If you want to, check out more of what Radha's doing, go to radha.metro-midkiff.com.
Same.
And so we're separating out the brands, but bringing them all under the umbrella. And then it's really nice because if somebody blows up, and let's just say they get too big for the umbrella, let's just say LifeWord gets really big or LifeWord's doing something else, then we can break LifeWord off fairly easily, I think, because everything's housed in the umbrella. But then
Yeah.
if that needs to grow beyond where the different connections, because the truth is you and I are also in very different stages in our life. I'm not trying to build an empire. You have a lot more life. I'm trying to like get ready for retirement.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. That's fair. I need advisors, you know.
So I feel like building up LifeWord is going to be a key part of this. Like, let's build up that entire brand. Whereas Radha
Yeah.
Metro-Midkiff is just sort of like, yeah, it's a place where I can give people a business card when I'm out and about, or I can send people to just to be like, look at all the cool people I support. And then like, I can also be like, hey, check out my partner at LifeWord, go to this podcast we do, go to this YouTube channel, because then we can, promote the YouTube channel. So I'm always thinking, especially having just done so much work in branding and marketing over the last 3 years, really trying to focus on that, and working with some pretty cool professionals, both in PR and marketing, trying to see how we can use these tools to then build up others. Because obviously, again, like that's what we want to do. We just want to
Yeah, it's
build
like
up others, and we just want to create opportunities for other people.
yeah, it's our life's work is supporting others, and it's like that really needs to be like front and center because like thinking about like the shows and the channels that I watched growing up, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, shoot, late night Adult Swim, like these things, like my mind, Comedy Central, my mind is still full of that material,
Yeah.
right? And like it never leaves. Like Goku, Dragon Ball Z main character. I mean, he's still like a person that I look up to even today. You know what I mean?
I have
Like,
no idea who
and
that is.
exactly. But like, it's just we can spend a whole conversation talking about Goku and like all the young, a lot of younglings like me. We're all in that same generation that loved Goku, that grew up watching anime. Like, we didn't watch, some of us watched Scooby Doo, but like most of us watched Japanese
Only
cartoons
because your
growing up.
parents made you watch Scooby Doo.
Literally, yeah, and it was just on. Like Tom and Jerry, they would just be on, and like but at 7 p.m. on on Thursday, you're locked in watching these shows or Pokemon or whatever.
Quentin,
And
how old are your parents?
my mother is she'll be turning 64 in December or
Oh,
65, December 10th, 1961. That's my baby. And then
so they
my
were
dad
older
was
when they had you.
oh yeah, my mom was 33
Yeah.
when I was born. My house just the house we that they bought. So I was born in April. They bought in '95. They bought the house in June, or it got finished being built in June, and so it just turned 32, 30 as well. Like as I
Oh.
like a completely different place. And then my dad was born in '44, so he passed at 74, but he would have been 80.
Um, that's interesting because that's how old my parents are, 80.
Yeah, I mean I
So
feel
like
like
your
parents.
dad was the same generation as my parents, but you are actually younger than my stepson.
I was gonna say my sister was born in '71, my dad's first daughter,
Yeah.
and my mom's first daughter was born in '81. So I have like two much older siblings, and I'm like the 29th, 20. They always met. It's like 26th or 29th. I forget exactly. Grandchild of of the grandchildren. I was the last one,
That's so
and
wild.
it's dope though because you get to live your whole life like around OGs. You get to live your whole life like dealing with people that are like well into their maturity. You know what I mean? And have
Yeah.
like a very peaceful outlook on life. So
It's funny because I feel like in some ways, like I got the opposite because I didn't have children myself. So I was always
mm,
like the favorite auntie. And so favorite
yeah,
auntie got to have a different dynamic with all the kids. And so like I'm very close to my nieces and nephews, especially the younger ones. And so they always keep me really hip and cool and in tune with what's happening in the world. Because otherwise, and I like to think I'm a little bit hipper and cooler on what's happening in the world than my siblings.
I
I don't know if my
agree.
brother
I
would
mean,
agree with me.
Yeah, if that's your brother. If he's agreeing with you, then that's a red flag. Yeah. Yeah.
So, what I'm thinking for our first episode then is I think our first episode could just be a little bit of us talking about like this idea of what we want to create and sort of like, with the particularly one answer yoga, but we can touch
Yeah.
upon like
It's
our bigger
overall.
vision. And then I do think like it's important that we like introduce ourselves. I mean, more of our bios and our life stories and stuff, but I think it's really the first episode would be good for that introduction of just like, okay, who's Quentin? Who's Radha? Why are these two people? You're Yogi Rich. Are we going to call you Yogi Rich?
You can call me whatever you want to call me.
Well, we got to decide. 'Cause if your brand is
I
Yogi
mean,
Rich, then we're
sure,
going to call you
yeah.
Yogi Rich.
It's like something that I keep to myself typically, but I'm open to it. My Instagram is Yogi Quentin Richmond. So I think the Yogi part was the hardest part for me to put there. But the Rich that my dad went by Rich, I never went by Rich my entire life. I always went like all my friends call me Quentin and Quint, but I just feel like I want to carry on his legacy. And yeah, so
So
I
how
feel
am I
like
going to
that's
refer to you on the podcast? Yogi Rich?
you can just call me Quentin. You could be like Quentin, but
Okay.
like yeah, my name Quentin.
Okay.
Yeah. But I
Right.
like
We
to
want to
sign
make
things.
sure because people are going to, that this is going to be,
Yeah.
in an ideal
Like so
world, this will be the platform to build something for a lot of people. And I think there's a lot of people. I mean, the traction that I'm already hearing, like the people who want to hear this podcast, there's already, I think, enough people that like, once we start posting it, people will be like, oh my gosh, I want to listen in on that. That sounds really fascinating. I just was at the laryngologist yesterday,
mm,
and I was talking to this new speech therapist and the ENT doctor, and we were talking about the podcast because I'm having, we'll talk about that, and I'm sure lots of episodes about some of the health stuff I'm going through because yoga is obviously my default for how I deal with it all. But we were trying to get me ready because I have this thing where you should be aware, Quentin. We may go in one day to try to record, and I might not have any voice, and we'll have to reschedule our recording
okay.
because I'm having a lot of. They think it's like some reactive larynx disorder or something due to September 11th. So
Wow.
anyway, so I'm in there and we're talking about the podcast, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what's the name of your podcast?" Then I told them, the first kind of tagline and name, and I said, "One Answer Yoga, Two Friends, Infinite Questions, One Answer Yoga," and they were like, "What? That is so cool. That sounds really interesting." And they were probably one of them was probably in our 50s, the other one was guy in his 30s. So I was like, "All right."
I
Even the laryngologist is excited about our podcast.
like there we go. My homie like I think it's great. I think it's very direct. I think the only thing to look out for with the name title with yoga being in it is just like, some people might be like, okay, this podcast isn't for me because it says, because it has yoga in it and I'm not interested in yoga right now.
Yep.
And so we can always play with that. But I feel like
That's why I'm trying to like change the whole
that's
conversation
what I'm
about
saying.
yoga.
That's what I'm
And so
saying.
that's why, like, not talking about, like, oh, physical yoga. And also, then that's also why I want it to be under the umbrella of this bigger thing. Because
Yeah,
the
that's
truth
cool.
is some of these podcasts, somebody might not want it. Like, you may end up being like, Life Word is going to be a place where I speak to people who need these tools or these teachings, but they are not going to respond to the word yoga. So we need that like umbrella title, I think, to be something that does not have anything. And that's why Safi's suggestion, just like last night as I was pondering it all.
Safa, like
Safa.
S-A-A.
All right. I'm going to call her Safi because that's going to
It's
be my
okay.
nickname for her.
Yeah, yeah. I feel
In,
like
in,
you can call it soft.
in Polish, they always put like a little uh, I at the end of, so like Radi is what they call
Mm,
me, or Savani, or like E is always so I'm
like
gonna, yeah,
Quinty. I get it. I
Quinty,
mean,
Safi.
I understand. I just
I
don't
don't
want
know
her to
why I
have to
want to
be
call her
too.
Safi, but I keep calling her Safi.
I know it comes from love. I think I think in her name is not normal, or at least not normal here, but it's a very, very common Arab name, Safa.
Safi. It's
So
like a Radha.
yeah,
People are like,
it's like
that's
what
such an unusual name. I'm like, no, it depends on what part of the world you're in.
it's probably like a million
I'm pretty
plus.
sure there's like a couple billion people where that is not a unique name.
Yeah, they're like, of course, I know 7. Yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
look, why don't we just start the episode? Do you want to start?
I think we can. Let's stop this recording.